My name's Chris Knight. I have an electronic music project called Robot Detective, and I also book experimental and punk and hip hop shows in town through an organization I work with called Ithaca Underground.
For those of the people listening who don't know, what is noise music?
Noise music is basically a form of experimental music where you're taking all of these preconceived notions that we have, these expectations that we have about what music is, and we're just destroying them. We're saying any sound could potentially be music, and we're just going to experiment, make crazy sounds in weird experimental methods, see what kind of weird things we can make, and call it music. And it might not always be what you expect in terms of rhythm or harmony or melody, but what you get is a unique result and a unique experience for people who come out to see it.
So when you play live, what is usually your process? Like, are you playing songs that you've already recorded, or is it, are you ad-libbing almost?
I have an electronic music project called Robot Detective. And what that project is it kind of focuses on experimental techniques of audio synthesis using electronic instruments, so synthesizers and drum machines, a lot of improvisation, where I have kind of a sketch in my mind of like where I want to go, but I'm kind of using the hardware in kind of a free-flowing way to just try to weave people in and out of different kind of stories of sound. So I kind of like use some rhythmic parts where I have like lots of crazy beats going, and then I'll kind of dip into some more like ambient, textural kind of sounds, and just try to have fun with it and make it a weird experience.
And your home base is in Ithaca, so what do you think of the noise music scene here?
The noise music scene and the experimental scene here in general is really great. It's been growing a lot the past couple of years. It kind of grew out of the punk scene that we have here with Ithaca Underground and a lot of other people who are doing just interesting things musically. And so there's just been a lot of people who have kind of come together around experimental music and are just doing different things, and we all kind of bounce ideas off of each other and listen to the sounds that other people are making, and it all kind of influences each other, and it's a nice community. There's just it's a very friendly kind of inclusive atmosphere, and I guess the thing about noise is that there's no technical expectation of proficiency. There's no standard. There's no idea of like, okay, well, I would love to play with these people, but I'm not good enough. It doesn't exist because you're just making total chaos anyway. So anything is on the table, and that makes it really a welcoming environment to people who are just trying to have a good time.
Oh, who are some acts that we should keep a lookout for?
Let's see. There's a lot of people making interesting music in Ithaca in terms of experimental musicians. We have Bubba Kronrein, we have Smack's Cult, we have Weston Serkis, we have this guy named Mark who has a project called Monkey. Charlie Gill has a project called Opsis. There's a lot of people who are just doing really interesting things, so it's really exciting, and it's nice to be in a place where there's so much just diversity of sound.
In the noise community, what sort of sound diversity exists? Like, how are you different from other people who are in this scene?
So I make very weird electronic music, but there are other people who do things with analog tapes, making like tape loops and making tape machines that constantly record over themselves and kind of make generative looping noise patterns using tape loops. There are people who do guitar effects and kind of experimental looping with guitars, and then lots of effects pedals and things added onto it. Eric Johnson, who's a local, he's a multi-instrumentalist, but he's known for tenor sax, and he uses a pickup mic on his sax going into a guitar effects rig, and he uses that to make really crazy, wild soundscapes. Smack's Cult is a woman who does looping with brass instruments. So on stage she uses a looper pedal with a microphone, and then a baritone, a tuba, a trumpet, and she also uses an accordion and her voice to make interesting kind of like black metal type soundscapes. So that's going on. You've got people who are doing interesting things with percussion. I wouldn't call it they're doing noise necessarily, but it's pretty experimental. Sarah Hennings is a great experimental percussionist who's classically trained, and their work is really good. So it's kind of any instrument you can think of, there's probably somebody here in Ithaca doing something weird with it.
What hopes do you have for noise in the future?
Well, I guess nobody's gonna make any like money or get famous doing noise, like unless you're like really lucky. But it's really more just about creating a platform and a space for people to share their art and whatever form that art might take, because noise is an inclusive kind of movement. It's an experimental art movement, and it's open for everyone to participate in. So what I'm interested in is making space for experimental artists, particularly people who are not represented in the music scene for whatever reason. Creating that space where people can feel like they are being supported, and that like there's a place for them to bring their work to people and have people enjoy it. So what I want to see is more venues opening themselves up for experimental music. I want to see more people starting venues in their houses. DIY venues are really cool. We have actually a lot of people who have started DIY venues in this town in the past year. That's really exciting. And I guess I just want to see more people be exposed to it, and we had the first noise performers ever to play at Grassroots this year. We brought them in with Ithaca Underground, and there were people kind of going by poking their head in like, what is that? What is this crazy noise? And but people stayed and enjoyed it. Some people left, but that's okay. Maybe they're not ready for it yet, but we'll still be there when they decide to catch on.
Yeah, and you also had that sold out show at the Shanty Law.
Yeah, we had More Mother, who's a hip hop artist from Philly, and she uses experimental techniques in her hip hop. It's very noisy, it's very aggressive, and very politically charged. And so I think there's room for that kind of thing when you're blending genres. For example, blending hip hop and noise. That's a very interesting movement, and I think a lot of people of color are making experimental electronic music and doing really interesting things that way. So that's something I want to see more of. And I was just so thrilled that we were able to sell out that show. I mean, I think that kind of shows that there's a demand for things that are different.
What do you hope to achieve through your work?
I just want to create things that like I think are interesting, and just kind of have a space to show them to people. But I'm not really like trying to get like big with my music or anything, or like turn it into kind of like a self-serving thing. But it's just fun. I'm like a creative person in general, so it's just fun to be able to create new things and share them with my friends and have a good time around it. So I guess I just want to keep exploring different techniques and exploring different instruments and keeping it fun.
So what's next for you in your music?
So recently I've been like doing a lot with programming drums and like trying to find different techniques for doing that, looking at generative music techniques, where you're not making a composition, but you're setting some initial conditions in some software, and then the computer kind of self-generates a composition that could go on, in theory, endlessly, and keep generating new patterns and new unique permutations of sounds. So I think that type of music creation is really interesting. I'm really interested in building my own synthesizers and getting into DIY electronics and circuit bending, modifying instruments. I think that's really cool. And then just generally with my work in the community, I just want to kind of keep using the privilege and the influence that I have in the music scene to enable other people to share their art and get themselves out there in whatever way I can.
Alright, are you ready?
Yeah.
Describe Robot Detective in 3 words.
Loud electronic glitch.
If you could tour with any band from any time period, who would it be?
Dream Crusher.
If you could play any instrument other than the ones that you know, what would you choose?
The guitar.
What is a song that brings nostalgia when it's played?
Oh, East Hastings by Godspeed You, Black Emperor.
What is your secret talent?
What is my secret talent? I'm a really good cook.
What is your favorite venue?
My favorite venue is there is an abandoned slaughterhouse up on like Coddington Road that we used to have shows in when I was in college. This guy who just like a pirate, his name was Bob Wolf, and we would have like punk shows in this old slaughterhouse, and it was really cool. And I don't think anything will ever be that cool.
Alright, that's it.
Did I win?
No, you didn't win. You spent a lot of time on the favorite venue.
It was a good story.